All right, and welcome to another installment of the Filmmakers podcast. This is the P114 Filmmakers podcast, season 1, episode 10. We've hit double digits, ladies and gentlemen, and it feels good. It feels really good. All right, so I am Jesse Knight.
I'm Randall Lanier.
And I'm Aiden Ford.
And we're here to talk about all things filmmaking related. So we've got a kind of interesting show planned for you folks today. I'm going to start us off talking a little bit about screenwriting and writing and some stuff I'm working on now. And Aiden's going to talk to us a little bit about lenses, and we're going to have a good discussion about that and camera settings and things. And then bringing up the back of the line and the end of our show, we'll be concluding with talking about stereotypes and genre and jumping the shark and all kinds of things like that Randall's going to bring up as topics for us to enjoy. All right. So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of screenwriting lately, and writing has always been one of those things, like, I wish I loved it all the time. I wish I wrote all the time, but for me, it's always been a battle. When it's good, it's really, really good. It's wonderful. There's few things in life that can kind of take its place when you're inspired like that, but you know what? Those instances are not nearly the amount of time that it is when I'm not writing and struggling and wishing I was writing and trying to make something good. You know, writing's always been a weird one. My father was a writer, but he wasn't what one would call successful at it. But he wrote like 3 novels and tons of short stories, and I learned a little bit about what it means to kind of what at least the process was with writing. And I was lucky in a lot of ways because he was very smart, and he kind of helped me by introducing to me all kinds of literature when I was young. Like most American kids aren't growing up reading Camus or Sartre or Dostoevsky and stuff like that. And all that was dumped on me when I was like, I just want to watch He-Man and play with my action figures. But, you know, I also knew what that stuff was. So... Gosh, where to begin? Writing as a process for me generally starts when I'm really actively looking for an idea. And the nice things for me are kind of when I'm doing it right is looking at what my limitations are. You know, and I've talked about this before. I've talked about it to death. Eyes roll when I bring this up because I talk about it all the time. But getting an idea that corresponds with what your actual limitations are, what you know you can shoot with your gear, with the actors you have available to you and stuff like that is actually kind of nice because you know what the filmic space is that you can work within. You know, like I know that I can get a room somewhere. I know that I can at least get like 2 actors. You know, there are plenty of movies that are interesting with very little locations, very little actors, and they can be feature length. You know, you can do that, but you've got to have. The trick is to have something interesting, to have good actors, to give people a reason to watch what it is that you've got there. So, you know, it's a very difficult task. You can write it, sure, but is it good? Are people going to watch it? Can you make it? You know, all these questions are going on with me, at least the whole time that I'm working on something. And kind of for me, where I like to start off with is just some simple notes. I don't go right away into the screenplay. Generally, I'll sit down with just pencil, paper, or pen and paper, and kind of it's sort of like, I guess, I'm not a surfer, but kind of like when you catch a wave and it's sort of this excitement, you want to ride it to kind of find out where that wave's going to take you, how long can you last, all these kinds of things. So maybe writing for me is sort of a little bit of like what surfing is for people that do that, though I should be writing a lot more. Like surfers, if they get a chance, they're going all day. That's all they're going to do. But with writing, I try to start off with like a list, and then if I can make enough connections between these scenes and kind of begin to get sort of a semblance of a story structure, like how do I want to begin it? What is the process I want this character to go through? and then what I want to end up with at the end of this piece. Don't want it to be ending like, it could be very broad. Don't want to be more positive at the end. Don't want to be negative at the end. Do I want to have a, of course there's a message, but what is that message? What are the things I'm going to adhere to strongly throughout the creating of this story to make it a nice story for people to follow? You know, my tendency is to make things a little more complex than they need to be. So generally, like on my first draft, it could be a little bit convoluted or a lot convoluted, but that's the first draft. Honestly, when you get that first draft done, I've heard this used for other things, but it's sort of like you finally washed up onto shore. You can kind of start picking up the pieces and making it what it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, and then with each draft, hopefully you have a group of people you trust that can look at it with other eyes and help you come up with conclusions and help you troubleshoot the problems that are there. Like when I write something, I totally know most of the problems, but other people can get me to look at it from different perspectives. And if I'm having a hard time trying to answer a problem just by myself, it's just wonderful what just simple statements from other people who've honestly looked at it and are being honest with you, that you want that. How sometimes a simple solution is there. It's just hard for me to see because I'm in it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
totally
kind of nice.
relate.
It also works in the editing process and other things like that. You know? But you get those few people that you trust. You trust their eye. You trust their ability to know story and everything else you're working with. You know, because you want to make a good piece. I don't want to make a piece that's just mine. It's Jesse Knight. Here you are. I'm just going to cover you with Jesse Knight.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't want that. I want a story that people want. You know,
Yeah.
I want something that's just a good story. It stands on its own without me even being a part of it. Like I'd like to write something that anybody could take the script and make something halfway decent with it. Like, of course, I want to make it, but you know, I would totally.
You'll have your touch to it, but you'll have everybody else.
And it kind of maybe there's a little bit of pride there. Like you want to make a screenwriter, of course, wants to make a script that people like, that people want to make. It's so hard to get just somebody to read the damn thing. I've written so many scripts and stuff, but to find people who aren't my mom or my very best friend to read it is a hard thing to do. You know, but you find those people every once in a while, and you can get some really good feedback. And my mom's feedback's always good, but it's, you know, she's my mom, so it's sort of like, you know, and there's certain, like, she's not going to enjoy, she doesn't like horror. I don't necessarily want her to read horrific things that I put into a horror script. She'll do it though. She's tough like that. But it's important to find other people. Like I'd like to find other, maybe right now I've got a few filmmakers who are sort of on my level making stuff together and stuff, and I've got some people to read from that. What I wouldn't mind is maybe to have a few industry voices to read some of my work. Maybe a few people who are a few notches above me as far as success of making films and stuff, just to sort of think about that. But there's some things I totally believe in. I think you really should write for yourself on a lot of lines. You got to write kind of what you wanted, what your heart wants you to do. I do think it's hard, like, to be this sort of omnipotent, to look at it as a third person and say, okay, I'm just going to write this amazing recipe that everybody on the planet is going to love because it has these items in it, none of which I really care anything about. Like, that would be hard to do. You know, so for me, at least, I got to care about it, but then I put that care into the limitations, like 1 or 2 locations, you know, very few actors, but I know are good, who can carry it out. Or if I have a big idea in it, well, how can I shoot that so that I don't need all this stuff? Like if I wanted cops to be a part of a movie that I'm working on right now, well, already like police cars, uniforms, all those kinds of things are going to cost a lot of money. You know, so what are ways that I can get away without having to do all of that? Well, police radio, communications, hearing that, seeing in front of a speaker, but you're hearing people delivering dialogue that can bring you along. Also, another thing are those, what I'm kind of writing into the script right now are police cameras. A lot of them are mounted to the chest and stuff like that, so you can get video feed. But guess what? You can get a black shirt, you can get a weapon or something that looks police legit, airsoft if you want, and you can shoot them searching a house or looking at an abandoned car or all those kinds of things right now. And so when, which I could do with that camera, and it wouldn't cost much of anything. I can get a car and use my car to be that, and any kind of like crime scene stuff is going to be pieces of paper, things I can totally create, that they can find, So I try to look at it like that. Like my movie, The Orbs, originally I didn't want to see any of the astronauts on board the space capsule or any of that kind of stuff. So I was just going to show the capsule window, and you just hear those radio voices and stuff going on, which kind of works a little bit. I was eventually convinced that I should have people there and stuff, and I'm kind of glad I went that way. But at least when I was writing it, I had that kind of concept in mind. It was like, okay, small scale, big idea story, how can I do it, for a little money? And I guess lately I've been kind of frustrated because I've been writing a lot, but it's all been stuff that I absolutely cannot produce. I don't have $100,000 or $1 million or even 20 or 10 really. I could probably maybe raise 10. It would take me a year. But I do know that I've got the gear, I've got the know-how to make and edit and write and do all that kind of stuff. Kind of going back to my roots, but thinking of things that I know I can make by myself. If I get a little bit of money to do it, that makes it better. But I'm trying to bring myself back down to that. And I got friends who are like, well, you're going to do it the cheap way. And said, well, yeah, you know what? I've been waiting to make a $100,000 movie for like 6 years, and it ain't happening. I've got stuff burning inside of me that I want to make. I just want to work in it, and I want to make my own stuff. That's why I got into film school in the first place. Honestly, it wasn't to make people's movies for them. It was, I got stuff inside of me that I want to make. That being said, I love shooting with the people that I do. I love shooting and editing for all the directors and producers that I've worked with. I like all that. But I've been denying this part of me on the inside that really wants to create worlds. So it's taken me years to come back around to that, but like, okay. And it's kind of freeing to come to that conclusion. It's like, I've got all kinds of screenwriting software. I can just go for it, So I've been starting to get back into the process of writing and enjoying it, and that there's a video of Akira Kurosawa that I play a lot. And it's not the most interesting thing to see. It's just his old man head talking about writing, but there's key things that he says, Making a movie or writing a screenplay can be like you're trying to climb this mountain. And if you're looking at the top of the mountain the whole time, chances you actually finishing it, might be kind of slim to none. But if you're looking at just what you have to do each day, and he's like, you look down at the ground and you take it one step at a time, and he says within, you might, if you work at it for a day, you might have a couple of pages by the end of that day. And then after a few weeks or month, you may have a full movie written, a whole screenplay written in that time. And he's right, and it's that dedication to the minutia of work, that day in, day out kind of thing is, you hear me talk about like fighting to self. Well, that is sort of it, because you're fighting yourself to do this job that may or may not, it seems maybe, boring isn't the right word, impossible isn't the right word, but there's something about it that pushes maybe some people away from it. Because doing the work, honestly, I'd rather play a video game or something like that. But once you get into it, it can almost like free your mind, and you're working on this sort of this piece of clay made out of words, so to speak, and you're shaping it into whatever it's going to be, the movie. And it's a hard process. So I had sort of just a really loose outline on the one I'm working on now, and so I've gone to type it. It's been pretty good, smooth sailing ride so far. I'm on page 18, and today I didn't have a lot of time, but I managed to write a little bit. So I'm trying to remember those words of Akira Kurosawa. Putting that in. And each day I've been able to write a little bit on this thing. Like I didn't have anything last weekend, and now I got 18 pages. Not bad. Yeah. And if I keep it up, maybe in a couple of weeks it'll be finished. I've got also like one of my problems is I'll get halfway through a script and I'll kind of like lose my passion for it, you know.
Yeah.
But in the stuff I've been writing, I realized that I lose that sort of sudden passion because it's like I'm gonna need a lot of money to make this thing.
You start thinking about it more.
Yeah, I think about it a lot, and then I'm not able to vomit the rest of it out, so to speak.
You feel like you're wasting your time almost.
Yeah, I do, and it's kind of it hurts. It hurts the mind in a way. You know, I'm not physically hurt from it, but it's just like
no, I believe
I feel beat down by it a little bit. So I'm trying to remind myself, and I'm probably going to have to keep reminding myself my whole life of that thing I preach. Know what your limitations are. Write something within that, you know. I've got plenty of stuff that's not within my current limitations that I can expand on. I think they're good stories. I want to write those too. But I'm just dying to make stuff. So I've got to write stuff that I can make. Even the shorts I've written, it's like, to get it how I want in my mind, that's going to take money. Like I got a little 4-page werewolf thing I'd love to do, but by gosh, I really want that werewolf to look fantastic.
I'd love to do it with you.
And that, yes.
I love werewolves.
Not my favorite creature in the world, but I do like them. And it's sort of like what I like about the werewolf stuff is that's sort of one of the things as a filmmaker, how are you going to do the transformation?
Yeah.
How can you beat what's already been done? Ain't nothing going to beat American Werewolf in London.
Oh, that's
never. Nothing is going to beat the werewolf transformation in Fright Night.
Underworld is actually really good.
Underworld, you know, I don't have the money or the ability to do that. I can visualize, I can draw it, I can plan that, but to do something that is an effective werewolf transformation without like a ton of money is kind of hard. So that would be the sort of trick. How do I do this? Do I do it in shadows? Do I do it in close-ups? You know, honestly, when I do that movie, I'm going to have to get with my makeup people and figure out, like, what are some cool, clever tricks that we haven't seen a lot of that we could do, like, in close-ups? Yeah. Can we build part of someone's skin and just see claws coming out of it? So you're just making a claw and then, like, a little, like, thing to simulate somebody's body, you know? Because what I'd like is, in my transformation for the werewolf thing, is for the werewolf to actually claw its way out of the body that it's inside of, you know.
Yeah.
And it's real painful, and I've seen that kind of done before.
Usually the ripping of the skin.
Yeah, you know, that kind of stuff. And then I want to have like a fully werewolf thing, but maybe just show its feet and just show the rest of the skin and the entrails and everything just kind of fall down in a big mess at its feet. You know, there's that. I could always do the gradual transformation of werewolf where he starts to turn a little bit while he's fighting, and then that way I can kind of, it's all actor, all there, you know, I can do it sort of more like the old classic Wolfman movie, which is really cool.
Where it's just hairy.
Yeah, cool, there's some teeth and stuff, but that was, for me, would be just the beginning of the change, and I would have the change take place a little slower.
I like the idea of half man, half werewolf type look, where it doesn't look so wolf boy-y, but, you know, creepy looking, but still like you still got the human look to you.
Right.
That's kind of creepy to me. I hate that when you just turn into a wolf. Which is good too, but you know.
Yeah, I like that too. You know, Dog Soldiers. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Really good werewolf movie, and done kind of low budget, but done a lot of the wolves are in shadows, but the wolves look cool too. Yeah. The wolf costumes I've seen that are available to me I'm gonna have to put all shadow on top of that. You know, but they're not that bad, but. They're just ones used for like simple stuff like
the hand you gave us.
Like not better than that.
Okay.
Better than that. That was just I bought that at Party City.
Okay. Whatever happened to that? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's in the back of my. Oh well, I don't know. I guess it's in there.
It's probably in there. Okay.
It's in the wicker cabinet probably. So that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of stuff. Like.
I can really relate to a lot of that, actually.
So my goal is I want to do, I use this term, it's only been used a little bit, called a parlor film. It means a small film. It can be feature length, but just a few actors, limited locations. It's really about the dialogue-driven story that's going on. So what I'm probably going to do is probably try to write more in that vein instead of all this high-concept stuff that's just going to cost so much money, you know.
Well,
to
yeah,
do
you
it
can't actually
right.
do that
I mean, I
now.
could do it, but it would look not. It
It
would
would
look
ruin
cheap, you know. And there's I want it to look great, you know.
I hear you.
And the stuff I want to make wouldn't cost that much, a few $100,000, which is a ton of money, you know. But in the realms of filmmaking and stuff, it's not.
Chump change.
You know, yeah. But
Sadly.
you know, but I know that I can make pretty good quality stuff for not a lot. I don't think it's fair to bring on a whole bunch of professional crew when you can't pay them, so I would keep stuff down to the line. I'm trying to write now with stuff that I could honestly handle the entire job of crew if I had to. I don't like to work that way anymore, but I will on certain kinds of things, especially my own stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I've certainly had to wear a lot of hats making movies that other people have hired me onto. Like directing, DPing, and editing is a little much. You know, it's hard to do. I'm good at it. I can do it, and I'll probably end up doing this feature I'm writing kind of in that way. But I'll be in more control of it, and that's my story.
Yeah.
And I cast it and find the locations and all that. I think the control freak in me wants to kind of take over a little bit. And with that being said, I want to get a little more input from y'all maybe on your own ventures into writing and stuff, and then we'll move on to a different kind of thing. I feel weird like I'm just doing a huge lecture. I've been going on for 20 minutes,
Well,
which is a long lecture for me.
I actually was hoping you would let me kind of go off of the whole thing that you did. You were
Yeah.
talking about with actually pretty much what you just said about having the different hats, but also the struggle of the film life, and more so just the screenwriting. I did Last Nightmare, and that was my first script I wrote. It was very short, and it was literally like something you see all the time: girl in her bed, there's a monster trying to kill her, and how I did it. It was not the worst story. Not a writer, mind you, and I have a lot of ideas, but you really, to be a good writer, you have to have that idea come to the paper is like the biggest job. Is the hardest job for me, because you have to explain it, express it, you have to come up with all these different scenarios and figure out which one's the best for the situation and what's going to be the most entertaining. It's too much. It's so much for me personally. But I did it, I wrote it, and I liked it. But when I got it onto the screen and people watched it, I don't know who watched it, I know that the ones that did watch it, I just felt like they were not enjoying it. And that really hurt me, because I really thought it was good. But then I realized what's the problem. I realized what the problem was it was boring. It was just boring. It had a good look to it. To me, it was boring.
Mm-hmm.
After I had watched it, it wasn't because of everybody else's reaction. In fact, I think it was like, if I had watched that and somebody else had done it, I was like, oh, that looks good, but I'm not fascinated right now. It's 3 minutes and 40 seconds long. Only so much could have happened in that moment, in that 3 minutes and 40 seconds. It was a great first thing. So I'm not beating myself up on it, but for the future me, when I write something, I want it to capture people. And my new objective is, what do people want? Because what I'm trying to do right now is grab an audience.
Right.
If I don't have an audience, I'm doing this for no one but myself.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's not, but
because,
I want more than that.
Right.
And there is nothing wrong with that. And I did it. I started it, and I would even finish it for myself.
The thing to look at is like the things that you want to see probably are things that the audience wants to see.
Yeah.
So then the problem is like, well, how do I get that vision that I like over there? Because it's sort of like, I bet your vision would be very interesting to people that saw it, you know?
Maybe I am hard on myself. Maybe I am thinking too far into it. I think I tend to do that. I know that it could have had more to it. It boiled down to a lot of different things. When you write something, sometimes you could write the perfect thing in the world.
Right.
Like, it could be the greatest thing, but once you get everything else involved, the camera person, the lighting person, the sound person, everything, the makeup person, one person, and I'm not saying anybody ruined it, no one ruined mine. Mine was really just literally lack of extra time and not enough material.
Mm-hmm.
That was my problem. Everything
Right.
else was great. But for other people's, it could be some one person from a different field that comes in, could ruin it all. The music could ruin it all.
Right.
It just, there's so much to worry about when it comes to creating a film.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, having the different hats, like you were talking about. I was the editor, the director. I helped out with the lights. I helped out with the makeup idea. I paid for everything.
You're DP too.
Yeah, I was the DP, and that was very tough for me because I love camera work. In fact, it's like what I want to do, but I didn't have time to get creative, and it
Right.
wasn't a time to be creative.
Right.
There was only so much I could do. In fact, the story would have probably been worse if I'd been too creative because it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that before. So I'm learning a lot, and I'm very thankful for it, but this time around, it really did show me a lot. And the hat thing, wearing all the hats, it gets overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided from now on I want to start not being the editor for my stuff. I want to find someone else to do it if possible. Someone that I trust that will use the good footage, that will, bring my idea to life for me without all that extra stress, because the editing is the hard part.
What I look for if I edit all my stuff, that's a hard one for me to let go. But it would be nice.
It is hard
if I had that. And basically what I would look for is an editor who's better than me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer it better than that, but I just look for somebody that's who
hard to
knows
find.
who can figure out how to work with me.
Yeah.
In a nice way, and then it's not a problem for me to work with them. We don't really butt heads. We both are all about that finished product.
I'm very weird though. I am very territorial with my footage. I feel like as a
Right.
DP, I have really connected the two.
Yeah.
The editing and the filming
Mhm.
part of it. I
Mhm.
feel like one when I have both. And I would be nervous to let someone that I knew or did not know, even maybe not so much a professional, but worrying about where to cut, because I'm not saying I'm perfect. Obviously, you had to give me some great advice, which really made my stuff so much better. You need that.
Right.
But I would be worried that they would not be technically as good as me. They probably want to do it more than I would want to do it.
Right.
So
Early on, you have to be to do that, either sort of be a dictator and I was sort of that. I did all my own shooting, directing stuff, but I brought people on for film. I certainly used crews and stuff when I was doing early stuff and now. But I wore a lot more hats when I was younger. I just enjoyed doing all the different parts. I was just kind of lost in that. But it wasn't until the last 10 years that I really started it's kind of nice having a DP when you're directing. It's, kind of nice to have all these things I consider kind of luxury items, honestly, because they are. I don't have any money. I'm drop dead poor. I've used credit cards like no one should ever.
God, no, they won't give me another
That's
one.
how it goes. Yeah, I've been there. And it's just kind of, you got to do what you got to do to pursue what you need to do.
Yeah, which is not a problem for me. And I've learned a lot over this past year, especially being in film school. I am okay with that, but I think it has created a different person. Me being so this person, that person, this person, this person. I don't know where. I think that's why my stuff is looking the same, is because I'm not getting enough input here. I need more heads. I need more people. I need more collaborations, and I'm searching right now for that. So that way I cannot be so just whatever I am, because I'm not saying I'm not a creative person, but I don't have millions of ideas like you do. Maybe I do, but I haven't written them down because I'm not a writer.
And I've just been doing it a while. That stuff comes to you. You pick up it's gimmicks and tricks that you pick up along the way that help with certain things, And when I was doing stuff, I did so many things the wrong way, Yeah, you just really, you compound the knowledge you make over time and you get better. Yeah. And there's stuff I've done recently that I've made tons of mistakes on, did everything the wrong way. And, they're horrible open sores that you have to look at and deal with.
God, yeah. I get so upset. When we were the other day in class, when you showed my thing, I was like, I loved it. I love The Last Nightmare.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I had fun doing it, and I love what I see, and I'm proud of myself and everybody that's involved. But it's so hard sitting there watching everybody else watch your stuff.
Yeah.
If you know that, it's not even that you know, it's just like you're just, even if it was good or not, it's just so hard to watch people watch your stuff. You just feel the stabs.
I'm right with you, and notice I've done a lot. I don't show a lot to you guys.
I have noticed that. Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
You don't want to have to sit there and take it when, you know, it's there if you want to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to watch it, like I watched Orbs. I liked Orbs. I just
thank you for watching that. It's weird. Even at film festival stuff, I don't like going into screenings, and this is my own kind of issue I'm gonna have to deal with. Because really, you got to. It's important to go to screenings because you get to see the actual audience and how they're reacting to these things. You get to see if all these little things you put into that movie, these little tricks and things to create like a reaction, are they really going to create that reaction? Mm-hmm. You know, honestly, getting screening stuff, even when you're not totally done with it, but you got it done enough where you're pretty fine with it production-wise and all that kind of stuff, and the story's there. It's important maybe to let people start seeing it so you can start looking at these trouble spots that can be fixed. That helped me a lot with the Orbs. Like, I was kind of done a few times, and my God, I'm glad I didn't finish then, because it became so much better because of input I got from other people and other things I added to the movie. I mean, it was, you know, adding the actual astronauts in the scenes made it so much better. It was just going to be a window, which I kind of liked, that mysterious kind of feeling and the disembodied voices carrying us through the story. But
do you ever watch, just a question for you real quick, do you ever watch your stuff with people and start inserting your thoughts? Like, the whole time someone's watching my stuff, I'm like, this is what I really meant to do.
For sure, and I had to bite my tongue, you know. It depends. It depends. I'm really not trying to watch my stuff a lot. I've seen it about like 12,000 times when I'm done with it for the edit. So
yeah, I feel you.
To have to watch it after that, which you have to. You got to do it, you know. You got to carry it through. I mean, your movie, you got to take it from that initial idea all the way through sales and beyond.
It's just sad because, you know, like when people have babies and stuff, they like to show off their babies for the rest of their lives, and then you get like, you make a movie which is your baby, because my movies are my babies, and I'm like, I want to show these off and I'm proud of them, but there gets to a point where I'm just like, I'm done and I don't care. You think that when you like I said, I compare my stuff to my kid. I created it, it's mine, it reflects everything I am, and I should feel super proud of this and show everybody, and no matter what they care, I love my baby, this is my baby.
Right.
But no, everybody else's opinions for some reason matter, and I guess it's because I'm a newbie.
Yeah, they say your film ceases to be yours once it's out there for people to look at. Then it becomes theirs. Mm-hmm. You know, and there's something, I kind of agree with that.
I agree too.
You know?
Actually, a lot.
You'd have the best, like, no one gets it for the reason that you made it. They're all over here on this thing, and it's like, oh, well, damn, I get it.
Oh my God, all the stuff you've seen in your life, and you realize there's somebody that created that, and you don't think about them. You think about what you're watching, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Sure. So, with the act of writing, just the simple act of writing, what's been your experience so far? What do you like about it or dislike about it?
I hate that I'm not a good writer because I'm not a good reader, because I never read that much, and I'm not good with grammar, which really what stops me from writing, not because I don't have ideas, but because I'm not good with grammar. I have to ask somebody about 10,000 times a day, how do you spell this?
Right.
It's not even just that. It's like, when do you put the comma there? That is something that's more important to me than, because you know how if you're doing the format for a script, you can go ahead and get the idea down and then do the format. But for some reason it kind of looks better, it flows better, it gives your ideas a lot better look when you're rereading it, so you want to do it right the first time.
If you can write in format and get used to that, honestly, I would advise like not being so hung up on spelling stuff for your grammar. And it's easy for someone else to say it, but just go ahead and get it out.
Well,
it's the best way you can get it out, and don't worry so much about that.
I knew you were going to say
that. And then
those
other readers, of course, and then those other readers will help you make it better. Like, I'm always down on my writing. You know, I don't think that I'm this like literary genius at all. No way. I'm like, God, is this boring or is this? I don't know. I don't know if it's good or not. I can't answer that. I know like this cool feeling I'm having articulating this now. If I'm in the audience watching this, is it going to be any good or not? I don't know. I hope it is.
Well, sometimes it looks different when you take something that was meant to be on paper, not meant to be on paper, but that was on paper to the screen. It just looks totally different. But it's funny. That movie that I wrote, The Last Nightmare, I keep saying The Last Nightmare, everything I envisioned down to what the people looked like, even what the monster looked like, it was to the T.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that I have to say, that everything I wanted out of that I thought of, happened. The only thing that hit me in the face was that I didn't write more and get more crazy with it.
Right.
That was it. But everything was just, I looked at it after like 50 times. I was like, who cares what anybody thinks? Because this is everything that I wanted it to be.
Right.
The lighting, the monster, like I said, it was just great.
Right.
Other than what does this mean?
Right.
But
Google's my friend. When I'm writing, I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Let me research it real quick.
Yeah.
And Wikipedia helps, all that kind of stuff.
It is, but it doesn't explain to people what Aiden Ford was meant when he was writing Last Nightmare.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't explain to you. It's just, I do. But your question though, going back to that real quick, it is writing a screenplay or just a book or whatever the case may be, a poem. I have been writing for a really long time in my own way. Other than the last gap of years,
right?
A couple years not being creative until I came to film school. I loved writing poems.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is that I wanted to be that poem writer or that poet that made people confused, but then they think about it and they get it. But I could never be so confusing.
Right.
Because they're so confusing. I'm confusing in my own way, but not in a good way, in the way you're never going to understand.
Right.
Poetry, I love my Aunt Kim because she can write a book, she can write anything. And then with her poetry, it's like, what does this mean? I'll never understand it because I can't put it all together because my brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
And yours can, but mine can't. It's like, but I always wanted to be that writer, like a philosopher, someone that was just out in their own world. Yeah,
man. I kind of feel the same way, believe it or not. Like, I feel like I'm, I'm this clunky, like, like my hands are just these big giant squares. I can't really articulate myself like these genius books that I've read and how people can really write. What makes a good writer? Like, I feel like a dumb, plebeian, kind of person, just like a blue collar worker compared to like those kind of
but you understand
folks,
them, right?
With a little help from Google,
no,
the sources and stuff,
part,
but for the most general, absolutely.
That means something.
And then I can read stuff and I think the ability to make connections is pretty important too. Randall, in your own forays into screenwriting and stuff, what are some of your experiences that you've had or thoughts about?
Some initial scripts that I did that you had me write here and there, like movies or whatever type thing, I had to think of in some aspects of what could be done for the movie, who can I have in the movie, who is this, that, and I had to, kind of write toward that. But then you told me to write a script that's, forget the budget, forget what you can do, just like write or whatever, a big budget movie if I wanted to, whatever.
Right.
And I sat down, and that's where the Doom Patrol script came from. But mine turns into only really an hour pilot, but anyway, like something like an hour pilot. But anyway, but it's that was easy, not easy, but I don't want to say easy, but I did have a little. Like I said, I took from little bits and pieces of some of the stuff that I knew, the comic books and stuff like that of the Doom Patrol. So I had, taken from that. I was thinking while y'all were talking and how I was gonna put this out there. Maybe but anyway, writing that was a little bit easier because I didn't have to concentrate on. Oh my God, I would have to have two people and this and that person would say that. Would this person be able to, memorize this, scene or whatever type of thing? And this was just all put out there and easy. So it's in a sense it was easier for me and everything like that.
Right. And with Doom Patrol, you've been reading comics for a long time, and you knew. It's kind of interesting.
I put a lot of Easter eggs from DC and stuff like that in there too.
And there were already characters that you had built up who they were in your mind. So you did. One cool thing about that is you didn't have to come up with their origins. Who are these people? All this kind of stuff.
Which I could see a lot of people, would go through. A lot of that.
Right.
I didn't go through. I did write down the script from verbatim from a comic book or anything like that. Like that definitely would have got me in trouble had I kept that way. But I think about it is when writing, like I said, you talked about writing for your movies and you talked about writing for your movie and stuff like that, and you kind of had an idea of what you wanted to write and you wrote it. And you had it, like I said, again, maybe the concepts of, I gotta have the two people, the actor, okay, what can they say, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, how am I trying to say this? Because there's people, I was listening to a podcast the other day, they were saying how, there were comments on movies and everything today were saying how, they're not putting enough women in, or the women aren't the star of the movie. They wanted the superheroes are not putting a lot of women superheroes in movies and all. And you a lot of the writers, screenwriters, and all that stuff have to write not necessarily for the people in California or the people in New York. They have to write for all the people in who's going to watch this movie and who can connect with the movie or whatever more. They also have to write for people because a lot of now movies are going there. The studios and all that stuff are looking toward China and foreign countries or whatever, and these movies go into foreign countries too. So they want to make money there too. And unfortunately, a lot of people in those countries or different countries, not necessarily China. Not saying just China or
you're not singling anybody out.
Yeah, I'm not saying that some places are more of a patriotic society, where it's like the men are the ones in charge, and the men are whatever, and so they see a woman being a star of a movie, they're gonna say no, we're not seeing that movie or whatever type thing. I'm not interested in it, whatever, and so they're looking for money there. So it's become really a big global thing now with movies,
right?
And
I could see though how younger people in those countries might start to change a little bit because they're being exposed to different culture.
But they're still there.
For sure. It takes a while.
It's getting there, but it's just and so they have to also. I mean, even if you wanted to go less global and go national, you have to kind of write for Middle America too,
right?
Where if I wrote a movie about New York, let's say I'm from New York and I knew about New York and I did a movie about New York and
you pretty much know no one in the Midwest or the South are going to watch it.
They may not be interested in it or find it interesting or anything,
right.
But there's some people, some of them may, some of them may.
I mean, Woody Allen's have made it, and people like that.
But really... especially if it's something connects with a general audience more.
That's true.
That's the thing about it. What you do, right, and all this has got to connect with a general audience, not just people in your, we could make a movie about, I don't know, whatever, filmmaking, but then again, it might be a small audience.
Right.
Who get that. Because you notice that a lot of the movies about filmmaking are more small, independent movies.
Filmmakers watch them.
Right, small independent movies. Even Kevin Smith's, Clerks or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
The first one, it was popular. Critics loved it. some people liked it, but it only connected with probably a very small audience.
If you weren't in a film school or a college student at that time,
Yeah.
you may not even hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I connected with it because it had connected, like I said, again, I worked in a film, or I worked in a
video store and all that, yeah.
And
totally.
I worked with, have worked with the public in general and all that
Mhm.
stuff because a lot of the convenience store stuff or whatever was similar stuff I dealt with too and everything like
Right.
that. And just in like working at Kmart or whatever
Oh, yeah.
too. So, I mean, there's things that I connected with, but then, like I said, the general, I mean, it was a small independent movie. It didn't make global,
No.
money or whatever type thing.
Right.
But it just connected with, the audience just enough to really get it going. I mean, if you bring up Clerks now to a general audience, I get 10 people in a room, and they're not film students. They're just
Right.
whatever whoever
Yeah.
they're from. And I guarantee you they wouldn't know who the heck you're talking about.
Right. But they'll know Kevin Smith.
Right. Maybe.
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 Yeah.
But so that. But so you kind of have to go for. You have to think of a general audience when you're writing. If you're wanting to have of course, there again, it depends on what you want to do.
For sure.
If you knew that you're going to have small movie, of course you're going to write.
Right, you're going to write towards what
Right.
is specifically
It's
about.
like-
But if you're writing a superhero movie
Yeah.
or something like that, well, you're not going to write that for this small little niche of society.
Right.
You're going to write that at least for the audience that initial work was intended for.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's why I think they will. Like they say, because there's some actually comments under that podcast, or it was on YouTube. I was watching the podcast, and and I don't go in and read all the comments or anything like that for the podcast, but I kind of clicked down a little bit in this one, and they were talking again. They were talking about how the women weren't in the movie, and one person said, well, because they have to look toward global thing too,
Right.
where they're maybe not going to be able to make money.
Sure.
This is their mind says money and making money and making.
Right.
It's
Right.
not
making art. Yeah, no. I'm about making some art, but yeah, I wouldn't mind the money though.
But they're like looking. I mean, like if you went to people now to make a movie and say, they'll look at it and say, okay, this is the movie you want to make, but how's it going to connect with this audience or that audience
Right.
or whatever type thing?
Right.
And it's not necessarily
Now there's a magic money-making thing of foreign pre-sales. So if you have these stipulations, certain actors involved, certain kinds of
that
things
plays a part
involved.
too.
Yeah.
There again, actors play a part too.
Mhm.
Now, at one time, actors played a part like in the '80s or whatever, or maybe in the '90s.
Yeah.
You got Tom Cruise to be in a movie.
Everybody
you're going to make
wanted
some
him,
money.
'cause
You're
Tom
going to
Cruise
make
movie. Yeah.
But now, then it turned into it kind of turned into a director thing for a little while, directing whoever was directing
That's
it.
almost a genre.
Yeah.
Pulling
But then
people
now
in.
it's kind of turned into, globally anyway, you can still, if you get Tom Cruise in your movie,
Oh yeah.
he's a global star. So if you're
Right.
going to get Tom Cruise, you're going to make money overseas.
For
You
sure.
may not make as much money over here though,
Right.
in nationally or whatever,
Right.
as much.
Mhm.
But globally, you might make some money.
For sure.
But that, like you said, it does play a part too,
Mhm.
as much as if you can get a star that's globally known
Right.
in comparison to.
I think it'd be interesting to see what a Tom Cruise or even like a Steven Spielberg go through in the process of making a film. What happens with them with an idea? Are they handed a stack of scripts and they go through that and
Yeah.
like that's the one? Are they dealing with the producers like, okay, you got to make this and then maybe you can do this?
It's probably a mixture
Or-
of
yeah,
different things. or
I
whatever.
agree with
I would
you.
think- I would think, anyway.
Me too. Yeah, I'm just interested. I'd like
Yeah.
to be a fly
Yeah.
on the wall and just kind of see how it happens.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really exciting to watch like a Spielberg back in the late '70s, early '80s.
Compared to
watching
now,
that kind
even
of,
compared to now, or whatever.
They'd probably get bored watching Jaws happen because a lot of stuff didn't happen
Yeah.
every day.
I've
But
seen a documentary on the making of Jaws,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was really interesting.
There's some good ones, yeah. And wasn't he like fired a whole bunch on that? But they
He
didn't-
was.
yeah.
He came close to being, or he was.
Yeah.
He was. Came close. I think a billion, like a lot of times, to being just basically.
Right. Some of the famous producers at the time was like Bob Shea and some of those other directors were doing their first stuff with Spielberg.
Which
then, yeah.
Aiden and I talked to you about you saying that about your movie, I did see your movie.
Which one?
The what, the Last Nightmare?
Oh, you saw it? How'd you see it?
You showed it to me.
I did?
Yeah.
When did I show you?
Last week, I think.
Last Friday, I think you might. Did you see the final edit or the
Yeah.
the next edit?
Yeah.
The final. Okay.
I think that's what or yeah, no, actually Jesse was watching it. That's right. Jesse, you showed it with Jesse, and I was there. You said you wanted me.
Oh
to
yeah,
watch
that
it
was
too.
my first one. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he did a little re-edit, which
Which
improved
was
some
better.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's
But,
better.
but anyway,
Sorry.
everybody starts out with, you know, you saw the movie. I saw the movie. Everybody has their own first, you know, type thing to start out with. So I mean, that's, or I don't want to say it's your first movie, but it's an early movie that you
First production.
Yeah.
First my full
Filled out production. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just you throwing it together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, everybody starts out. I mean, Spielberg didn't start out.
Yeah, it's not.
He
gonna
started
be
off as a
amazing.
kid.
Yeah.
He got to make movies as a
So
kid.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, it's like he didn't start out with Raiders of the Lost Ark and then just get it to him,
Well,
and that's it. But I
I
mean,
was
it's
hoping for
just
some
like,
type of gem. It didn't have to be gold. Maybe like
yeah.
you know, the lowest silver or the lowest. I don't know much
Pewter?
about diamond. Huh?
Pewter?
Yeah, it could be something. Pearl. I'll take something. It's at this point I'm gonna look at it as gold.
Yeah.
At this point for myself.
Absolutely.
Because it was beautiful.
It is, and
I
you can-
created that.
Yeah.
gold for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can like you said, you can learn from that, and you can go with some things that you liked it, and if you did, and if you see something that you could feel like you could have done better, then do better the next time or whatever type thing. I mean, it's just anything like that. I mean, it's anything in life, really. I mean,
I wanted more adrenaline
but-
to it. I wanted more like, pumping up to that moment where you finally see the monster, and I wanted more light at the end, and I wanted more of a story, maybe another 3 minutes.
If you were about to do it again, and knowing, do you think you would have? What would you have done differently? Would you have worked in a bunch more shots? Or
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
would.
kind of funny in the edit. It appears like you know what shots you need.
Yes, I would have first of all done that over the bed shot again
Uh-huh.
without me in the mirror,
Right.
and Mr. Quaid.
Sure.
Mr. Quaid. And I would have done more light on that.
Mhm.
I would have had a led up to that moment and
Right.
something after that moment. I would have seen my mom die.
Right.
I would have maybe not even do that. I would have gave the character more of a character.
Mhm.
She would have had more life,
Right.
more expression. I would have directed better. It wasn't her fault. She's a great actress.
Right.
I did not do a very good job of directing because I was so concerned about what I was visually seeing.
well, see, I ran
my-
the same thing too. I mean,
That's what happens when you have all hands, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, like I said, a movie which I've pretty much done, finished. There's a couple of more tweaks I got
You're
to do with it.
99.99999% there. Yeah.
I got a couple of things that I got to do with it, but again, I'm looking at that too. I'm looking at, well, I could have, if I was could do it all over again, I would have done that. I would have been better director as much as dealing with the actors go. I didn't do a good job directing the
You did
actors.
tell me that.
I didn't do a good job directing actors, and I mean, I was one of the actors, but I didn't.
You had a lot on your plate.
Yeah,
You did.
I was worried about
Everything.
everything. So I mean, I could have done better. Yeah, I mean, like you said, same thing.
You can't
it's the same.
plan for everything.
No, but I mean,
without crew.
But there's some things that I knew I wanted what it was done, and I didn't say. And like I said, and I'm not saying that it would have made the movie better, 10 times better, but I'm just saying that it would have done what I wanted from that one scene, type thing.
Guess what? As long as I've been doing this stuff, I'm still running into these exact things in
Yeah.
my own work.
I mean, you could probably talk to any director, even Spielberg, and then say, well, if in that movie I would have done this better, I think.
Of course.
And it could have been one of his best movies or whatever.
Everything. Just thinking about like Hybrid on so many levels. There's decisions I made that I regret. Like there's scenes that are way too dark, but they were lit exactly as I asked them to be lit. It is what I feel bad about is when people say it's too dark, it doesn't look good. I feel bad for my DP because that DP did exactly what I told them to do, and I thought it was perfect. But then also not knowing viewing conditions on all of these things are usually terrible. So you have to have something bright in there, or else it's just going to look totally black, And those little nuances that I was all about were meaningless.
Yeah.
You know, and so there were lighting things I would have done differently now, and that was no fault of that DP. The DP would have totally lit it exactly how I wanted it, and that DP lit it exactly how I wanted it, and it didn't work. It was an experiment.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, completely.
I've had a lot of people say things to me about what they felt about my last nightmare, and I'm not going to say what.
Right.
But they would say, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and I would be like, well, that wasn't their fault. That was my fault, because I could have said something, I could have done something. That was actually something I wanted, probably.
Right.
You know, like the makeup, I wanted it exactly how it was. It was beautiful to me.
Yeah, I thought it was
she
great.
did amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't realistic to the point where you're going to see it on feature film. But
yeah, but how many of those monsters have you ever seen in real life?
I was about to say, and not to mention, for somebody that has never done her a full face cast before she killed it.
Look great.
She did a good job.
Yeah.
Because she just came in there and bam, bam, bam. I was so proud
I
of
love
her.
that creature.
Yeah, she did great. And we sat there together and configured what we wanted, and she made it, and it looked just like what we thought.
Right.
So, you know, and it's not just her, like, even, it was my fault I didn't tell Mr. Quaid, I was supposed to say Mr. Gaffer, Mr. Quaid to do more lighting at the end. And we were talking about that the other day. I wish we had more lighting. It happens
Right.
this way. Even in movies that you spend thousands and millions of dollars on, it's gonna have it. I wish
You're
I could
gonna have
that.
this. You're gonna have that.
Exactly.
Like in I think it was Godfather 2. What's the guy that shot that? He's so good. Anyway, he was going on, and he's like, you know, there's a scene in Godfather 2 I went too dark on. You know, and if you haven't seen the movie, it's a scene where, if you've seen it, it's a scene where they're talking to the mom in this dark house. But guess what? If you're in a dark house, it looks like that. It's dark. You don't see a lot, but it didn't translate well enough to the screen for people to let it alone. You know, but
You agreed?
sometimes I love the scene. I wouldn't change it, but at the same time, I know they're talking about that as too dark. But
Yeah, I feel like
it's okay. It's a necessary part of it, and it doesn't get in the way of the story. You know, and that guy's a genius DP.
And it went on to win the best movie
Yeah,
Oscar.
yeah. God, so it's like, you know, he's not hurting.
Does he usually have the camera in his hand, or is he just DP from the side and have a camera operator?
I can't remember. I don't know how he works, because there wasn't a lot of behind the scenes of The Godfather. There's some, but I just didn't look. I imagine that he's probably hands on.
Okay.
You know, just because of how he talks about light and stuff like that. But I know plenty of DPs that aren't. Like my best friend Jason Ledford. I don't know, like he operated and did a beautiful job on the orbs for me, and he was also DP on Hybrid. But on Hybrid we used cam ops, and he's all about that. You know, he likes being with Video Village. He likes talking to his gaffer, and then talking to the director, and then he'll give orders to the cam ops and all that kind of stuff, which is totally legit.
Sounds fun.
Lots of them work that way. Lots of DPs work that way.
Yeah.
I'm a little different, and I think it became just because I grew up with the camera in my hands.
So,
It's an extension of my body. For some reason, I feel like it needs to be touching me.
Mhm.
It's like whatever it is inside of me makes that image magic. It's
Yeah,
retarded.
really.
It's just
No.
stupid, but it's
you're not
to
gonna
use a
catch
horrible
me.
word, but
You won't catch me have somebody else touch my camera unless
Right.
I have to have them touch my
right.
camera.
So letting that go, and it took my best friend to help me let it go, and he did a great job with the orbs. I mean, I have no problem with anything. It's everything I wanted that film to be, and everything that he shot in Hybrid's what I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has different ways they work.
Sometimes
You
it
know.
is good to let go. I would love to just have my gaffer time and watch my cameraman do what I love doing, but do it like I do it. Or
Right.
doing it better.
There's no question you got the right people in there, and they're nailing the composition you want.
Yeah.
hmm
And
You know, some directors get real hands-on with the camera. Kubrick, very hands-on with there's all kinds of shots of him making movies, and guess what? He's behind that camera lining it up. Tarantino, he loves shooting. He operated, I think he was camera operator on the Grindhouse film he made.
oh yeah.
What's it called?
Um,
Oh, Lord.
I can't remember.
I know Planet Terror, and he did the other one.
Oh.
Darn it. Anyway, wah, wah. He was the operator on that. He still had a DP and all that, but he carried that camera on his shot because that biological connection. I want that, you know. If I was directing, I would like to have a DP that had no problem with me touching the camera. You
I'd
know?
love
But
to-
sometimes that comes up, unions, all that kind of stuff can.
No.
But I like working with the pieces. You know,
I like to do it all. I love the DP job.
when I'm directing, I'm shaping a piece of clay or I'm using a brush to make it, and you know,
See,
it's just sort of how I work.
I love being able to just be like, okay, I really have this vision. Like, I want to have the story, but I want to add to the story by saying, you know what, this would go really good with this light coming down in the background and this light right here behind me. Let's get some, let's get some lights in here. I want to do that like that. That's just to me, that sounds like the fun part. Being able to, you're creating it even more. I don't know, me and my words, I'm not good at it. I just know that the DP in me is the one that's got the camera in their hand, that is still a part of the lighting setup. That's not just the camera operator.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the DP that's not the camera operator.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be everything.
For me, operating that camera means I'm in the movie. I'm in this electric area. It's on. It's I don't know how to describe it really, but you're just like in it. You are experiencing the story.
Yeah.
In this really weird, preternatural way, and
you're the only one.
I love it. I love it, and that's what when I was making those early films as a student in grad school, what I enjoyed was the fact that I'm actually making something. And it was in this day and age. I don't know if I would have felt the same way because everybody's been shooting a lot more movies and playing with their cameras more and all that kind of stuff. There's more of that tech around, and I just didn't know if it was something because it's not around that much that. I don't know. I don't know how I'd be if I was just now like 20 and discovering filmmaking. Yeah. I'd probably be very happy on one end because guess what? I can make films with this.
Yes, you know.
Or, yeah.
Not me.
I agree. Well, now, yeah, no. But in a way, maybe it was kind of good for me not to have a lot of stuff around and then I could dream a while and then I got a camera and then I learned how to use it and then I could incorporate that into the dreaming. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but
for years, for the longest time, years ago, my an old past of mine, I remember thinking to myself, I remember exactly where I was driving, and I was talking to somebody in the car, and I was like, I really want to be in the movies. I really want to make a movie, and I was like, but how am I going to do it? And what makes me think that I could get there? What makes me think that I'll even be good at it? Just because I love to watch movies? Cool. Yeah. There's thousands of people that love watching movies. But then the older I got, and especially when I made the decision to come here, I realized, who cares?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Those people out there, those movies you're watching, they're the same. They're just a human being, and they wanted to make a movie, and they did.
Like I do.
Well, the other people, I'm talking about the filmmakers that we like watching and stuff like that. They had the same thing. They're just people.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it, will to power.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth, but I'm with you. Self-doubt is a prevalent thing. I mean, I've got it all the time. It's just, it's not fun. I hate it. I hate that part. It's like fighting depression and all these things.
Well, it's like, you said earlier, actually, I was going to tell you this. You said when you write your writing and you get pretty much even halfway through, you're like, I feel like this is going to get nowhere. I feel like I'm wasting my time at this point. And then you realize, that's how I feel. I felt that in the first semester of film school. I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. I felt like I was going to do this and do so good at it and get nowhere in the end.
Right.
I had to, about 2 times in the process of being here, I had to snap out of it. And it took not long at all because I kept realizing how much I love it and who cares what happens because at least I'm having fun.
Right.
I have that too, where you're not even fully done with something. You're just like, this is a waste of my time. It's because you love it so much. You're just so scared to get heartbroken.
Right.
That's my outlook.
Yeah. And then you get older though, and then it's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's been broken a bunch. It's got the groove in the couch, so to speak.
Yeah. Well,
I can deal with that now, and let's see how I really do this.
But you would have to admit that if you did create this thing that you were just completely in love with, like this story that you're writing, I can tell it means something to you, and you're excited to do it. If it didn't work out,
honestly, I'm more excited not for the content of the story, which I should be slapped, but I'm more interested. I'm excited that I'm going to make something that I can actually make. And I know that I can get decent actors in here. It seems like the structure to me makes sense for this film. And I think if I just keep at it with writing this story and get it done quickly, but then have it totally, I mean, I'll have all of spring to get this thing ship shape and ready to go. But I want to have it, I just like, I think building and completing a world or whatever, or a film or something like that, is probably for me the most fun, at that. And my battery's dead, so while I'm away getting a fresh battery, we're going to hear from Randall about our third topic we're going to be talking about today, which is genre and stereotypes and jumping the shark.
And he wanted to do lenses or whatever.
And then maybe we'll talk about lenses as well in that. We can. It's just easier while I'm away for us to hear from you. And but you could start us off with lenses too. I'll be back.
I don't know anything about lenses.
Well, you know what.
But anyway, I was going to want to talk about cliches or stereotypes of movies or television or anything like that. I think I've been watching television, and I've seen recently movies and movies in general have always been cliches or a formula to them, which is good, but then again at the same time too, can be just formulaic and just like something you see every time, and it just kind of gets boring after a while. Seeing the horror but I mean horror was part of it, where there's kids that these young, I don't want to say kids, but these teenagers that go into the camp, and they are one's this way, one's this way, and everything like that. And they get killed by the bad guy who's in it, and that's kind of the stereotype of the movie or whatever. And then they started movies where it's constantly doing that, going to do that. And then there's I started talking about, like, even it's becoming cliche in television shows with the millennial or whatever. They always have a person who's millennial who knows about the internet, but then there's the old guard in the show too that doesn't know anything about it, and there's like always the conflict between that, and that's a kind of excuse for jokes and everything like that, which I thought was really dumb and everything like that. And it's just like, everybody, my dad knows about the internet. My dad's, in his 70s, and he knows how to go to the internet. And they got people in there that are, my age, that go on, I don't know anything about the internet, and millennial is showing me the way, and all. Which, I mean, I'm not saying that millennials are. That's why I'm saying it's a cliche, and I think a bad thing.
My knows more about Word than I do. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like it's just becoming, a running gag, I guess you'd say, in a television show. And I haven't seen movies, but there again, I haven't seen a lot of recent movies, maybe in the past year or so, to really get that down, or if they've been doing that or not as much. But I just, like I said, that's kind of a running cliche stereotype, like I said. And it'd be good to bring up if Nate was here about if the cliche in horror movies where the black guy dies first in the movie and everything, and
especially back in the 80s and stuff like that. Yeah.
That if they got a black guy in their group or whatever, and they're in some sort of bad guy killing them or whatever, he's always the one that dies first. And then that was in a lot of movies. They did that, and I think that was, like I said, again, some of the cliches are bad, or they're either get boring after a while, and some of them are not that bad, but just like I said, they just get boring and after a while.
Or the truth behind it falls away.
Yeah, and you can kind of start clipping away or all this stuff, and kind of getting, making a movie into like predictable. Oh, well, this scene is going to be this, and that scene is going to happen there.
Right.
And you just, like, lose your interest in the movie, really, because it takes you really out of the movie. Cause
I find myself a lot always like, oh, I bet this is going to happen next, and this is going to happen next. It's hard to shut that off sometimes.
But, I mean, if you show something that nobody's ever seen before, because even sometimes, even like the one with the girl, the mousy girl wins it's become, it's not quite cliche yet, but it's getting there to a point where the mousy girl in the movie or the quiet girl in the movie, wins the day or whatever type thing.
Or the bad
movie.
guy turns into a good guy in like a comedy.
That
They do a lot of that in TV.
There's
Oh my
been coming of
gosh.
that too.
It's like, why can't we just stay evil?
Well, see, that's the thing about it too. That's what happened in the '90s too. I mean, I'm going off book with this one, but just a quick thing. In the comic books, they started making all the bad guys. Which I mean, the best bad guys are the gray ones.
Yeah.
Meaning,
Good and bad.
good. They could be good. They're not. There's more depth to them. There's not
Just evil.
Like,
twisting.
Magneto has a reason he's
Yeah.
Magneto. Yeah.
But they kind of started turning a lot of into completely anti-heroes as they used the whole thing. Venom was one of the things. He was a complete villain of Spider-Man, but then they changed him in the '90s to an anti because they wanted to make money selling a regular television series, a regular book series of him, whatever thing. So they made him hate Spider-Man, but he could help out people. He helped out other people. It's like
It kind of takes away the hard edge of that character, though, right?
Yeah, and so it kind of like that happened a lot in the comic books. Like I said, Magneto was one of them that became more gray, which Magneto is kind of, he never was a twisty villain.
He always kind of touted the flag that he wanted to help mutant kind.
Yeah, he loves mutants, but he doesn't like anybody else. He
Right.
doesn't like humans.
God, he makes such a great point right now. It's just like, I'm gonna go along with this and I'll shut up. I'm just gonna go say something real quick.
Go ahead.
You ever seen The Help?
I know the movie you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
One of my freaking favorite things about that movie is the characters. And it's just not one character, it's like a whole bunch of characters. They did really good job at writing the characters out, having different personalities, giving them a really good, like, strong dialogue, and I guess it was a strong movie and a very, intense movie, but I love movies, and now I kind of realize why my stuff sucks is because I don't have, first of all, I don't have dialogue, but second of all, I don't have strong characters. Like, that's why I love Kathy Bates, because she can always play this really tough, strong character, even if she's just, you never see her as a weak character, but if you do, it's, other than Fried Green Tomatoes, but then she became strong, which was great.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
But
I've seen that
that's a
movie.
good movie.
it's, this kind of just brings up maybe the aha moment to me, where it is more about, everything matters, but the most important thing is the character, and especially when it comes to the writing and the actor. Why do I love this movie? It's because of the character.
Well, and that emotional impact that character has on you. Emotion, I agree with the Walter Murch book, In the Blink of an Eye, that, character, I think things with like really strong characters I'm more interested in. And it could be, and I'm finding out that it doesn't matter the genre or what it's about. If those characters are right on, it's going to pull me in. And it could be about stuff I have no interest in, but man, I'm enjoying the story and these people that are pulling me through. And guess what? They put little hooks into my emotion and they pulled me in, and that's sort of the thing. So I think like what you're talking about with directing actors and stuff, like if I got a story that my heart's involved with, that's the thing. You're able to explain that character to an actor. They can take that, hopefully they can feel like the emotional impact it's having on me. They can take that and I want them to make it their own. I want them to make it something better than I even thought of.
Yeah.
That's my hope, for that. For them to take this thing I put on paper and make it truly come alive. Like it's sort of alive as a phantom in my head before someone takes it and makes it their own. But to be able to explain enough of that phantom to that person, I think, and I just sort of thought about this as far as directing, because directing, I'm more of I'm holding onto the camera more and less dealing with my actors. One of my kinks in my armor, I would like to work on focusing on my actors a little more.
Yeah.
And I think part of that thing is being able to describe stuff with an emotional impact for me, and I think it helps the actor get a hold of that and then maybe do something with it.
Yeah.
You know.
It makes the story good too.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you can't. Yeah, I could have the best story ever, but who's gonna play the part, and are they gonna make it?
Yeah, and what are
feel
those?
good?
What are they doing? You know.
Yeah. Now I just kind of realize what's wrong with everything, and I wish I could go back in time and be like, we need more expression. It's not even about more expression. That's not your fault.
You want something to wake you up. You want something to shake you and say, "Look at me."
Yeah,
you know.
like now I
For
know.
sometimes, and then some stuff is like, no, I'm just gonna look at
Crete
it. This
was-
is entertaining.
You know the Crete thing that I did?
Yeah.
Now I realize why that was much better, even though that had no lighting, and it didn't have no monster. It just had a guy in it.
Mm-hmm.
She gave me tears.
Yep.
She gave me shakes.
And you had incredible coverage of that.
yeah.
Lots of shots, lots of ways. You know, you had a lot of decisions that you could make openly in that edit too. Yeah, you had a great actor, and she was also really good in The Nightmare.
She was. No,
You know?
she was. I didn't give her enough opportunity. We didn't have enough time.
Well, there was not a lot for her to do. It's a
It
really
wasn't.
short
It was
kind of
super
thing.
short.
Yeah. But you could build around it. Like that story, I see you revisiting. I don't know
I'm
if you're going
going
to redo it, but I could see you reshooting it. But I think like leave the monster the same, but you could work more of like the build up. You could have a conversation between the daughter and the mother before all that happens.
See, I
you
originally
could
wrote
lead.
that.
Yeah. That's okay.
And I took it out because I thought it was too much, and now I realize that could have been fun. I could have
That's
got to
okay.
know the characters.
That's part of the
Could've felt
learning
emotional.
process. But there's something to be said for how you did it too. Just a sliver, a moment in time of this happening.
Yeah.
You know.
It was definitely a trailer.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Anyways.
the first cut, the second cut was way more story. You know, it felt more that way.
It did. It did.
Mhm.
That thanks to you. You really, brought that to me.
I just told you what I thought.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was so much. It was the best advice I got out of all the advice that I got because it really made it a lot better. And as soon as I looked at it afterwards, I was like, before I was
Right, you had something
second
there,
guessing.
and I was just like, just tweak this. It'll be, I think a little smoother.
Well,
Yeah.
well, now I know. It's all about the character. Here, I'm sorry.
I agree.
totally
No,
agree.
we're good.
Interrupted him.
Anyway, but going back to stereotyping cliches, I just, like I said, the '90s did that in the comic books. I don't necessarily remember as much the movies being like that as much as like turning the bad guys into, good guys or as much. But,
Right.
But
Bad guys with a heart.
Yeah. But I mean, I think. But there again, a lot of people go back to the same cliche, or not cliche, but being the same thing of the best bad guy is the one who thinks he's doing right.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, but there's sometimes, of course, it all depends on the story in the movie, what's going on with it.
Sure.
But there's something that is said to have a bad guy being just bad.
Yes. There's not much of that going on right now, is there? Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, that's why I mean, again, well, this is a movie, but like Loki, the way they did in the movie, he's
Right.
up and down. It's like he'd be good 1 second and then
Right.
be better the second, and
And
I can't stand that.
I know.
mean, it just
I like
it drives.
Loki too, and
I'm
like,
like,
I want
yeah.
him to live.
I
And
mean,
all
they're
that.
even
I'm like,
going to
damn it.
have a miniseries on him on the Disney streaming service. Where when
Right.
they get that going, they're going
Right.
to have a Loki movie or whatever. And it's just like, oh God, it's just like he's an evil character. He doesn't need to be.
Especially if you look at the actual mythology that character's based on. Loki was heinous.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Awful atrocities.
He-
Though a lot of the
he's-
gods were the Viking gods were all bad.
He's
kinda-
a god of
kinda bad.
mischief, but he's also they call him the god of evil too.
Yeah.
So that's what he's, like I said, he was one of Thor's. Well, in the comics anyway. I don't know about mythology as near as much.
Right.
Norse mythology near
Oh,
as much.
he's evil.
But and he's like Thor's arch enemy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And it's like he's his Lex Luthor, if you will.
Yeah.
And Lex Luthor doesn't come up and saying, "Hey,
They
I'm
almost make
I'm
him
a
a
good guy
joke
too."
and kind of silly in
Yeah.
the movies.
Yeah. And
I do love that actor, and I do like the movie character Loki, but I agree with you.
the audience tends to like him, and that's why
Yeah.
they're changing him into a.
It's
Trying
money.
to change it.
Audience likes it. Dollar
Mhm.
signs.
Mhm.
You know.
I watched this movie called The Babysitter. What's it called? My Babysitter's Killing Me or something like that. It's on Netflix. I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
But the whole time in the movie, it was like low key. Like you really loved her. She was like the hero to him at first, and then like he realizes at the end, which was really funny. It's a really good movie. That she's a psychopath. She's legit just psycho, and she's about to do this execution to this boy with some friends in his house while he's supposed to be sleeping. And then, but they had this like, you could tell she had been the babysitter for years, and that this was not just some random act. She must have been doing this for a long time. She'd always been evil, but they had a great relationship. She loved him, and he loved her. And then all of a sudden at the end, when he's like watching her, die because he hit her with a car because she's been trying to kill him this whole time randomly just because he saw something happen. And they have this moment where they're like, I'm gonna miss you and I loved you always, but then you can go fucking die. You're sorry. I mean, it's like that's what it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, this movie is really tearing me into different emotions right now because I'm trying to figure out, do I hate her? Do you hate her? I don't even know how he feels about this. It's so confusing. I kind of like it though, because you're not just like, I hate her. You're like, I kind of like the fact that
Right.
it's come out of nowhere that you're just this evil, but you've known him for years and you apparently love him.
Yeah.
I do understand where you're coming from, but it's like they can either play it really well or they can't. It's just
Right.
it makes for entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference. Like Darth Vader, pretty bad. He does change, but it was a pivotal point in the story,
Yeah.
and it was not. And it was something that just happened, took everybody by surprise. It was very effective.
Right.
But then you've got like Magneto, Loki, all these sort of soft bad guys. That I'm with you on that. Like I'm not really scared by them. I know because it's this movie
Yeah.
that Loki's gonna end up helping Thor out.
Yeah.
Or Magneto and the Doctor are gonna kind of have a momentary truce and do that. And I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
He's not really evil.
What scared you guys in films early on was something truly evil.
Yeah.
There's no hope of good in that right there.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Well,
Everything
like-
it touches, it will corrupt.
I mean, his second scene that you see, if you were back then going to see Star Wars: A New Hope,
Yeah.
his second scene was him choking somebody.
Yeah.
That's an evil dude.
That's pretty much sets up
He's
how it is.
crushing his windpipe while he's holding him up and
Uh-huh.
choking him, and so physically choking him.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. If they had technology back then, they probably would have had him
Force choke 'em.
choking him. And it may not have connected more back then. Even
You would almost think that Vader would rather do that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he was just like choking him and threw him basically killed him to the end and threw him to the floor or whatever, like he was nothing.
Oh yeah.
And so that's an evil dude. That's
Yeah,
not
it is.
somebody who's gonna like later on in the movie going,
No.
oh, I've learned my lesson now.
No.
That thing,
no. Not till the third movie.
But even then, he had a.
It was right at the bitter end. Like
Even-
the Emperor was going to
yeah.
kill Luke, and then he flipped. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had every intention of turning Luke over
to the dark side.
To the dark side,
Let's
and
rule
Emperor.
the
Even at the
galaxy's
beginning of
father
that
and son.
movie, I mean,
Mhm.
it wasn't like he was he was questioning it at the first of the movie. It was
Right.
It still had every intention of doing that.
Right.
So, I mean, again, they talk about like they've even talked about. That's why I'm having problems with the. I don't want to go into a lot of Star Wars because that's
Right.
that's another story.
That's
they
a
can
whole
do
season of
something
podcasts.
else, yeah. But I don't like Kylo Ren's character. He's too.
He's not bad enough. I agree.
I'm
thought about
afraid.
that.
I'm not afraid of him.
No.
If I saw him standing in with that uniform that he wears without his mask, I'm not afraid of him.
Nope. As soon as he dropped the mask and
yeah, when he took off that mask in the Force Awakens, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And just like
I think he's a good actor. Don't get me wrong, but at the same
even
time,
then I still don't feel like
but
he's the
it's-
greatest. Not in this part anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I haven't seen him in a lot of other parts. So,
But I'm with you. We
but-
don't have anybody evil in the Star Wars universe anymore.
Yeah,
All the
everybody's
Emperor, the
gotta
First
be-
Order.
You gotta feel sorry for them.
Well,
or
they're
we
a
gotta do
joke
this.
too.
Huh?
The First Order's a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all like
Yeah. I mean,
the
just-
reason. Yeah. Ugh.
It just well, like I said, that's
Yeah.
we got to talk about that another. But that's that's why the difference in between Darth Vader and like I said, I'm not getting anything from him.
Mm-mm. And anywhere where there was hopes of some bad characters like that, they just
It's
fall
become
through.
like I said, that's becoming cliche where everybody can't be evil, can't be completely evil.
But
We gotta
guess what?
be-
There are real
like you
people
just
on
said,
Earth who are totally evil.
Yeah.
It really
Um,
exists.
So I mean, that's or at least or in the past has been people who were completely evil.
Absolutely.
So I mean, anyway, that's become a cliche stereotype
Yeah.
thing now. At one time, maybe 20 years ago,
Right.
it wasn't like that. It
Right,
wasn't
and it was odd to show a little bit of good in your bad.
Yeah.
But now the pendulum always
Yeah.
swings so severe in
So
both
now
directions.
that's become a cliche
Mhm.
stereotype, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. We
What
could
else?
follow up with a little bit of jumping the shark stuff. And,
Yeah, well, I mean, I just was like, well, part of it was going back to, like I said, millennials have become a cliche thing, and no, never mind that. I don't know, but I mean, but it's just that there's a lot of I'm losing it a lot now. But it's just, I think. Well, I mean, nerds and everything was a cliche at one time.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's
The movie,
flopped. Well,
Not just nerds
it goes
in
with it,
general.
but like in the '80s,
Yeah.
it was a horrible thing to
Right.
be a nerd.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was looked down upon to be interested in science
They were
fiction and
beaten by the
horror
jock.
and all of that. Like it was really bad. Like you didn't want to be caught dead thinking differently.
Now it's actually cool.
Now it's cool, and you got stuff like what is it? The show where it's all about the
Big
Big
Bang
Bang
Theory.
Big Bang Theory.
Which is
Like
on their last
that's
season.
now that's the epitome to be.
Yeah.
Not the dumb jock.
Yeah.
You want to be the smart person.
Yeah.
And
But
honestly,
I never
smart
wanted to be
person
dumb
might make
jock.
more money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Depending.
But the thing about is Big Bang Theory, I mean, I could go again. That could be another show too. But,
Absolutely.
I liked it in the first few years of it.
Mhm.
Now it's kind of got everybody's together. They got all girlfriends now or are
Yeah,
married and
it
all that
really-
sort of
it
stuff, and
wasn't the
we're
show,
all
yeah.
living in happily ever after type stuff.
And not good for TV.
Yeah. It was
Not
there
gonna
was
make it.
something aspects of there's aspects of the show, not even like even as it went along, maybe the first 5 years or 6 years, whatever you want to call it, because it's on its like 10th, 11th season now. But
Oh, it's huge. Forever.
and there's some other stuff that wasn't a hair ago about cliches, stereotypes, blah blah blah. That the relationships between their parents and them were
Right.
different than
Yeah.
you hadn't seen in a sitcom before, or even any time TV show or whatever. Maybe even a
Right.
movie too,
Right.
where the relationships were different than this typical stereotype stuff where. They're all to get it more laughs or to get some more comedy going on. They always have maybe they don't like their parents, or their parents are
Right.
or had problems with them, or whatever
Sure.
type thing over the period of time. It was it's kind of different where I'll just use Sheldon's mother
Right.
is Sheldon is a scientist.
Mhm.
His mother is religious.
Right.
So there's a lot of
That
conflict,
contrast.
but he still loves his mother and respects his mother.
Sure.
He has problems with her.
Oh, yeah.
He'll say stuff to her that really will tick her off and all that stuff, and they'll banter with each other. But at the end of the day, he respects her and he
Sure.
loves her.
Of course.
You don't ever see that. I never saw that with a lot of the sitcom
Sure.
situations or whatever type
Right.
thing.
Yeah, like Roseanne.
Yeah.
Jackie hated her mom,
Yeah.
but didn't respect her.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the actress who played Show's mom.
That's right.
Are you serious?
That's right.
Ironically,
Yeah, yeah,
ironically, that's the
Which one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jackie, the girl
Jackie
played Jackie
plays-
played
Uh-huh.
Show's mom.
That's
No
right.
Fudging way.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's a good actress.
So-
I just
So-
love
and-
Lori.
Metcalf.
Yeah, I just fucking love
But That's he
That's
had
so funny.
his father's dead, so you don't see any kind of relation with his father,
Right.
with his father, so
Mhm.
you don't have any kind of indication with that. Leonard's parents are alive, but they're like they're very intelligent scientists, but they're very cold
Yeah.
people. He grew up in a very cold house
Right.
where they didn't even barely celebrate Christmas and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, where he is. That's a little bit of difference too. There's a little bit of she's a psychiatrist and a very
Right.
cold psychiatrist to him, and she's not loving to him at
That's
all.
the one that
barely at
played
all.
in Roseanne also. Leonard.
Yeah, Leonard. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
the girl, yeah.
comedy effect, I like the friend who's an astronaut. His mom, who you never see, but you always hear her.
Yeah, and the actress passed away, so they had to take her out. But anyway, exactly. You saw his mom. You heard his mom. You heard her from another room screaming about whatever.
But that told you everything you need to know about that relationship.
That was different. But see, that was different too.
Yeah.
You never saw her. Never saw her. You heard her. Now, like for instance, in Cheers, I'll give you flipping over to Cheers. You heard about Norm's wife. You heard about her.
Yeah, you never
saw her. You
No.
never saw her though, and you didn't hear her voice or anything like that.
Right.
But in this case, you never see her, but you always hear her voice from another room or whatever type thing. And like you just said that a lot, but you learn about their relationship,
instantly.
Yeah. So that's a little bit different. That was a little bit of difference.
Yeah.
Raj, the Indian astronomer, he's on there. His parents are on there. They are loving to him, but he they're over in India though, and he speaks to him through Skype.
Right.
Which that's a little bit of difference, kind of thing. They don't come to visit or anything like that.
Right.
Like a cliche of the parents coming to visit,
Sure.
blah blah blah, whatever. They're just talk through Skype. So that was a little bit of a different thing going on. But there, like I said, I saw a lot of difference in not the stereotypical. Sheldon met a girl. He didn't start dating, but they started a friendship first.
Right.
They talked through Skype.
Right.
Through the show. They didn't have her be in an apartment with him or out somewhere with him or anything.
Right.
They talked through Skype all the time. That was something different. Of course, that goes with technology and how things have come. And I liked that time better because they didn't have this cliche of him. They were fighting and this and all this stuff. It was just more of a friendship, and they were. But like I said, talking through Skype, that's so much better than the.
You get close. Like relationships are important in these films because you can be in danger of what we talked about before, jumping the shark.
Right.
Both of us are pretty good. I'd say we're fans of the X-Files show back in the day. But I think what most people who watch the show agree on is as soon as Mulder and Scully got together, the interest in that show plummeted. It just, once you tie up all these loose ends, it kind of hurts it. Another one, Perfect Strangers, when Larry and Balky both had found relationships in their life and stuff like that. They really couldn't carry on what made that show great, which were these two sort of bosom buddy type dudes living in the same apartment and going through hijinks. I would imagine like if Elaine and Jerry Seinfeld had hooked up in the show Seinfeld.
They tried to do that though.
In the beginning, they were just finishing dating, but they were making friends, and then they
tried to bring them back, but they said no.
But that was a joke in the show too. It was like, we're friends. And this is nice too. Why can't we do both?
Yeah, that's when they were trying to bring them back together, together, and that show would have not continued.
No way, it would have done it. So luckily that was like 2 or 3 episodes, and they were past that. Like it didn't work. Yeah, it would have ruined it. It would have been done.
And since then, I mean, that's another thing too. Seinfeld was a little bit of groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Where he had
guys and girls who were friends and just friends.
Just friends.
Mm-hmm.
They never were dated. They didn't, or I mean, other than that little period of time at the very first of it, they didn't date.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like they didn't. It wasn't will they won't they type thing going on. And all that stuff. It was. They just were friends and they did things together, but they just were friends.
Yeah.
You don't see that very much in movies or television show anymore. It's everybody. They got to get together.
But honestly, I think
you have a male and a female.
In real
you got to
life,
get together.
There's a lot of men in real life. I think more so than they used to be. There's men and women who are just friends.
Yeah.
Like I got a friend in college. We never dated. We're just really good friends.
Yeah.
You know, and I like that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
No.
But that's kind of a cliche stereotype where you got the female and male. If they're in a room together in a scene together, they're gonna get there by the end of the.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they, that's.
But it's almost a relief not to see that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, the funny thing about it is, I think all that started, at least in sitcoms anyway, started with Cheers. It was that Sam and Diane was the big thing and it was for years. Will they? Won't they? Will they get together eventually? Will they married and all this other stuff? And it was like for how many seasons? 4 seasons or 5 seasons of that.
Yeah.
And that kind of, to me, that was kind of the beginning of it. Where
if she had stayed on, I think the show would have died. You know, I just and you change the show, it could kill it too. Oh my God, you got brand new characters and some characters used to are gone. But in a way, Kirstie Alley kind of saved the show, and also the little British dude that she did. He was a great addition to the. You know, there are a lot of nice little character additions they did to that, and they never.
But all sitcoms since then started a male and female, will they, won't they type thing, and all that stuff. That started that whole thing for a while, and even today you still will have that occasionally.
It kills the show.
Yeah,
it's funny.
And but that I was gonna say bring it up, but that's that's Friends even did you could say that maybe that, well, they were all together, they were male and female, and they did 4 of them became relationships or whatever. By the end of the series they were in relationships. So I mean they had 2 that were not, but still they still eventually got together.
Need to tie it all up nice and neat.
They didn't play the card of will they want, well, except Ross and Rachel, they did have a will they want they thing, but but the other 2 they didn't have a will they want they kind of period of time or whatever, but still, that it was,
Chandler and Monica. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't have a will they won't they thing, but they just, got together eventually, kind of more natural than than a little they will they won't they, but but still, they eventually got together by the end of the series.
And it was time to end the show.
Well, I mean, I like the show.
I do too.
But anyway.
Also, okay. In my life, my wife, of course, and a girlfriend before that liked the show Sex and the City, so I invariably watched lots of Sex and the City. And honestly, I've seen every episode probably 2 or 3 times because of you know what? It's a darn good show. When it falls apart, when I don't like it, is when they tie up nice little neat bookend relationships with the characters. It totally makes me not interested. She's a politician now, but when she had the baby with the guy, I was like, I don't want to see. I don't want this. And then when Sarah Jessica Parker's finally with Mr. Big, boring. It's boring. I don't want
That kind of brings up just something.
It wrecks it.
I know you've heard it before, and don't. It's actually a good thing. I know you know what I'm saying, right?
Right. I don't.
You don't know what I'm saying? Oh,
no
it's
idea.
so weird.
No idea.
Because I get weirded out when people say I look like somebody, because I'm like, who the fuck are you gonna say I look like? But he's a good-looking guy.
Right.
Aiden.
Oh,
You don't look like identical to him, but you have like that.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
You think I look like the dude from?
I think you have a similarity. You kind of have the same voice too.
Dude from I like the show he came from, Northern Exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aiden, yeah.
He
also is in a couple other movies and stuff, but
it gives hope for dudes with dad bods who want to act.
Oh my God. Not true.
Anyway, I guess I'll edit that out. No. Anyway.
But it's a compliment.
Yeah, no, actually I like his character because he's just sort of okay. You got drama and stuff going on, but here's this happy-go-lucky dude who's just trying to, gives you like a.
I kind of hate they didn't work out.
Yeah.
I like them together. I didn't really care for Mr. Big.
Well, I like that actor anyway. North by Northwest though, he was the cool character in that. He was the radio guy, and I don't really know how you. Honestly, you have to suspend belief with all these shows. Like, how the blank can Sarah Jessica Parker's character afford even that apartment is going to be probably like $2,300 a month in New York, writing this tiny little column in a paper.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't get that kind of pay with that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. And
Yeah.
she's all involved in couture and all this kind of stuff. I'm like,
It made no sense.
yeah. So you have to suspend some belief there.
I was actually watching the movie the other day.
Sorry.
Yeah, Sex and the City.
I just
Never
did.
did.
I
Never
never
did.
would have had I not
Who
met
your
the people
girlfriends?
who were in my life. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny because my cousin
wife.
got me into it because I didn't care about it either back in the day, and I just remember I actually kind of just liked it after a while because I enjoyed the characters and how they
There
came
you
together.
go. A character, emotional impact.
Yeah,
Bam.
was it? Of course, I hated the parts where they were trying on dresses and talking about boys, but it was still interesting, and I liked the characters. So yeah.
Yeah. I like it was fun. The story part was fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly. I like.
and I would have not have ever watched that, but I did.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, and I'd have to say, when it comes up, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good storytelling.
Yeah.
How many seasons did it last? They're doing something right.
Yeah, and they had 2 movies.
Yeah,
too,
and it pulled me away from post-apocalypse and horror and sci-fi.
It's different. It's colorful, and it brings you into the world of women and
Yeah.
money
Right
and
on.
sex.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
lifestyle. That
Mhm.
lifestyle that I'll never live.
Yeah, it's like I know it ain't that easy to be a writer doing what she's doing and live in New York. You're gonna
Right.
first off you're gonna have about 5 other people living in that apartment with you, and
Yeah, it didn't make. I was
Yeah.
thinking the other day when I was
could be
watching the
wrong,
movie. Well, she sold a couple books, but even then,
oh yeah, and she was right. She was all her stuff was about you never know, but
she
I mean
got rich. Maybe she was
yeah,
already rich.
yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know. That's true. That's
Who
true.
knows?
Yeah, but it didn't really matter to enjoy the show.
Yeah, exactly.
I just always kind of wondered. I'm like, really? What do you do for a living?
You're right.
Yeah. She played the poor person, but I'm like,
She
you know,
did.
really, you're not.
Right? She did.
If you're living there.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, how she did try to say that they tried to say that she was the least, most,
Right.
wealthiest of them.
Sure.
That she wasn't. But
Because
she
you got
still
the
was wearing-
lawyer, you got, I forget what it was, Samantha ran some kind of company.
Yeah, and the other one, Charlotte. I don't know what she did.
She was born sorry, I know so much about this, well-to-do family, and, she was sort of one of those perfect people kind of things.
She
And
had everything,
she was
yeah.
part of that society already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Samantha.
Okay.
I never would have thought we would have diverted off onto
I
Sex
didn't
and the
either, but I
City.
had to
It's
entertain
my
it 'cause
fault.
it's hard to. I don't know anybody that likes it other than my
Yeah,
cousin,
yeah.
and she doesn't watch it.
We're talking about jumping the shark, and when they do too much of that with them,
Mhm.
it ruins it every time.
Yes.
And became formulaic. Like they'd find somebody to be with, but there's something wrong and it fails, and that became part of a story structure.
Well, see, that's another story structure too that
Yeah.
happens in sitcoms or whatever, any
Yes.
drama show or anything like that.
Mhm.
They just do that where it's like constantly because they don't want the male or I don't want to say male protagonist in the show, whoever it is,
Right.
Don't get with anybody. I guess you would say. That's become
Because that's their main.
cliche.
It's like their problem, and that's kind of the fun thing to ride is the problem. When the problem's no longer a problem,
right.
you don't really want to watch it anymore.
Right, and so I mean that's like I said, it can become a cliche in a lot of sitcoms and shows.
Okay, I got the perfect example.
Yeah.
I know you guys have never seen it though, but
That's okay.
What is it called?
The heat's on.
It's on 28, channel 28. What isn't it?
28 days later, 28
No.
weeks later. Sorry.
I completely interrupted you, and I seen his face go. And it like I was like, oh shit, I done interrupted him again. It's the girls, Pretty Little Liars.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is a lot like that. I know you've probably never seen it, but
No.
I watched it through a girlfriend too.
But
so.
they use that formula
Yeah.
where,
You never get to where you want to get,
right.
and then it changes every 5 seconds. It's the whole idea of what you're talking about. I didn't know if neither of you guys. ever seen
Do you
it.
think people like that kind of thing in those
I
kind
mean,
of situations because we were trying to solve the problems in our own life, and so we can ride that ride with them?
Maybe I mean that's the only thing I can think. Or a lot of people it comes from soap operas too. I mean I will admit I watched soap operas when I was a kid.
There wasn't anything else on
Yeah.
for like 8 hours of the day.
Yeah, if you were home on a weekday, there
I
wasn't
was about
much
to
of
say,
it.
yeah.
You
Sesame
didn't-
Street reruns, baby.
Yeah, all you had was those soap operas to watch, but especially in like summertime and everything too. But but I mean that's same thing with soap operas. They go off the rails sometimes. Where like the diamonds or whatever, they'll go on some sort of thing where it's like somebody steals diamonds and they gotta go through some sort of. But anyway, that's but they have the same thing. They'll put a couple together or two people together and they don't stay together and they cheat on each other or whatever type thing. But that's cliche too. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I guess they just have to keep stories fresh or whatever, or something different or whatever type thing. But I mean, even Frasier became really tedious after a while because he never got with anybody. There was always ran into he looked like he was dating somebody. They looked like they had some chemistry going on, but then they'd have him do something stupid, which he did some. I mean, they had him do anyway, or some really stupid stuff or whatever to turn the woman off or whatever type thing, But anyway, I mean, it was well done too. But at the same time too, that aspect of the show kind of got really tedious.
Right.
And even at the end, he really didn't get with anybody. He was going to see if he could get with somebody.
Yeah.
But he ended it when he was on the airplane going toward this.
So do you think?
And it just like you still didn't see him really get with anybody.
So you think that worked against the show after a while?
I mean, they did have other. It was an ensemble cast, thank goodness, because I think if they would have kind of
just hung on him, no, this is not going to
had they. Thank goodness they found the people when they casting and David Hypier's, which they wasn't even going to have the brother character.
He's one of the best parts of that show.
They created a character for the show.
Yeah.
Into the process.
Thank God they did, because I didn't watch all the seasons.
Had he not looked like Kelsey Grammer a little bit, he wouldn't. They probably wouldn't have not hired.
Right, but you totally believe he's his brother.
Made a character,
completely.
But yeah.
And their characterization, how they worked together, was kind of good.
Which again, that kind of broke down too. Like you just said, when he and Daphne got together, that kind of broke down.
I ceased to be interested in the show at all. I was like, okay, that's when I kind of quit watching.
And that's when the writing started really changing, because it was like, I mean, I know I'm not going into this. I'm not going to go fully into it, but I'm just going to say this: his character, like he started, his character for a good chunk, he mostly wears suits,
right, and
ties and stuff like that,
right.
Where his character started wearing sweaters all the time and sweatshirts and all this other stuff.
It changed
him, and they kind of changed his character a little bit. He wasn't a little more relaxed in some of his aspects, and where he was a little less uptight and all that stuff, which I guess was okay. But I mean, it's just like it lost a lot of stuff.
It took away, because that uptightness, that kind of stuff is part of the fun of watching those characters.
It changed a lot. But anyway. That's all I want to say about that. But like I said again, stereotype. Like I said, goes back to cliche stereotype. Niles got together with Daphne relationship, so that changed the whole, the way of the show, whatever type thing. But so, like I said, they got together. That's well, see, that's what I'm saying. It goes back to the thing of will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they. But when they get together, that's when it kind of kills the show.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly did for a lot of shows I can think of. Yeah. And it was instant death for Perfect Strangers, pretty much. Well, they carried on the show, but it just
for a couple more years. But
Gilmore Girls.
Same thing there, huh?
Gosh.
Yeah.
She was with Luke? Was she not with Luke? Was she with Chris, the dad?
And then you just don't care after a while.
I do.
Yeah. You think maybe we could, we're sort of on the hour and 48-minute mark. Should we push lenses and stuff maybe to next week? Maybe we can talk a little bit about gear and software and stuff. I'm not writing that in stone, but that's just an idea.
That would be fun.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our 10th episode. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this one, and tune in for, hopefully we'll do a few more this semester. Goodbye.